Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, helping higher education marketing leaders share knowledge about learning, strategies, and tactics that are relevant today. See what you can learn today by listening to one of our episodes.
Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, hosted by Concept 3D. On this podcast, we like to discuss topics in higher ed marketing around creating and capturing demand. Before we jump in, we have a message from our sponsors. So a little bit about Concept 3D. Concept 3D's purpose is to foster connections through technology, elevating the way businesses connect with their community by leveraging the power of events and location. If your school needs an updated interactive map, a virtual tour, or centralized events calendar, please reach out to concept3d.com. Thank you. Awesome. Well, let me first introduce myself real quick. My name is Shiro, and I will be your host today. I am very, very, very thrilled to have our guest speaker, Ryan Wilson, join us. Ryan is the founder and CEO of Team Trust Production. He's also an active celebrator and advocate for persons with disabilities. Thank you for joining us today, Ryan.
Yeah, Shiro, thank you so much for your time, and thank you all for listening. And if you're watching, thank you for watching.
That's great. So I love to start off with this question, which is, what do you love about higher ed?
What do I love about higher ed? I think that the biggest thing that drives me every single day is the ability to impact the next generation, to help, somebody who's younger than me with a disability or without, see their potential and realize it. So, Shiro and I had joked before we started recording that he was going to ask me this icebreaker question, and so I got to fire it back to you, Shiro. What do you like about higher education?
Absolutely. So, I went to the University of Colorado. I'm speaking from my home in Colorado, so I stuck around here in the state of Colorado, and I know you live here as well, Ryan, just in a different city, but It really set my life up for success, right? And so the friends and the community I'm still involved in is everyone that I met in college. The jobs and career alignment has all stemmed from it. So I'm super, super thankful for the social capital that it's created for me. I think that's the trending term for it. Just working in the industry now, like, people are really passionate about what they do, because, like you said, they have the ability to impact the next generation, and it's provided a lot more value, especially that I'm learning from this podcast, that I'm able to, help people who really care and are passionate about that theme.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I like that. Yeah.
Great. Well, I know we hashed out some topics ahead of time, and, I'd love to hear your take on a lot of these things. One of the things we talked about is, what can higher ed really be doing better to market a school's accommodation of accessibility?
Yeah, well, that's a fascinating question. I think there are a lot of things, and I'll start with a little anecdote that might kind of help set a scene. I grew up in Illinois in the middle of cornfields, and when it came time to look at college, look at a four-year school beyond my community college, my parents and I were a little concerned and very uncertain as to how this would work. Like, when I was looking at school, I was focused on, quite frankly, would I be safe at this school? Can they guarantee that I will be taken care of if I'm injured or if I have a medical crisis? And so I think at the very bare minimum, I think colleges really need to become more transparent about what they offer to their students with disabilities today, their current students, and their future students. Because if I would have known that my school had all these accommodations and some of the greatest wheelchair athletes right on campus, I wouldn't even have thought about looking at other schools. I would have known that this is where I want to be, this is where I'll be safe, and let's figure it out.
Gotcha. And in your case, the institution wasn't really marketing or making those elements visible, right?
Yeah, I will say probably not, because in the recruitment materials I got, and when I dove through their website and learned about their disability services program or building department, whatever you want to call it, I never really heard anything about where are the accessible bathrooms, where are the accessible transportation stops, and what accessible transportation do I have. And so I really didn't see anything out there until I visited campus, which is not necessarily an option for everybody.
Gotcha. And so having that communication, whether it's visually or on the website, ahead of time would have been really helpful for you in that situation.
That's for sure. Yeah, unquestionably.
Got it. And, once you went to campus and you were able to visit, fortunately, did having those options and the support and the resources help influence your decision to continue your education there, or to test it out for a while? I think you switched schools, so I can't remember if this is the school you switched out of, but did it help influence your decision, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, so I started at a community college. It was a 2-year college, and I got my degree there, so I finished up that, and then I transitioned to a 4-year school, the University of Illinois, a 4-year program, which is much, much bigger, and the student body population was 10 times the size of my hometown population. And so, it made a big difference that I knew I was supported. I was around people who were like me, did things like me, and we had shared goals. And so, had that not been the case, I think it would have been more challenging for me, and of course, I think my parents would have been a little bit more concerned as to whether it would actually work out. I did graduate, barely, but I got through.
That's amazing. Gotcha. Okay, and I know you talked about accommodations and resources. I know you mentioned website is also, making that accessible. Can you go into a little more detail there as well?
Yeah, I think a lot of times when, universities think about their websites, they're kind of doing the minimum of what complies with the law. And the reality is a website is a major touch point for any future student. That's what I did, and that's what many, many students do today. And so if your website goes above and beyond what is required by the law in terms of accessibility, you're really going to reach more students, you're going to attract more students, and you'll, of course, attract the right qualified students easier. And so when it comes down to web accessibility, there are all sorts of things in terms of the color of the site, audio descriptions on videos, alt text, captions. There are a whole bunch of things, but you need to make sure that your website is accessible, but also really, highlights what makes you unique in a very inclusive manner.
Got it. And I think you mentioned, going above and beyond, and that latter aspect is where you're really going above and beyond, right? How does the school support, like, from maybe a curriculum basis, or are the professors accommodating? I know those were things you mentioned, and so I thought those were really important, like how you're going above and beyond the bare minimum.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, you need to address those major concerns that students with disabilities have, and their parents, their caregivers, and friends. It's all important.
Gotcha. So this next question, a little bit harder for me to ask, I'll be honest, but from I know you're a CEO, so you're a business person yourself, right? Why does this matter? How does this matter for higher ed, from the business impact lens, right? Why is this important? What's the value?
Well, it's a good question. It's a tough one. There are all sorts of things, and I think the reality is when you look at the demand of your audience, your audience is craving diversity, and when they see, just looking at ads and marketing, for example, when they see diversity in your ads, whether that's race or ethnicity or whatever, they're more inclined to take action on that ad, and they're more inclined to, be more trusting of you and your brand and your university. And so you're addressing a lot of things that the student population wants and needs, and the ROI is really worth it. I mean, there is an investment sometimes with helping the disability community, but it's really what everybody wants and needs right now. And also, I mean, just business aside, I mean, it probably just feels good to make sure that everybody feels welcome on your campus and make sure they feel like they belong.
No, I love that. Thank you. And I think I listened to your podcast with Enrollify, and it's not. I think you mentioned something around the lines of like opportunity just to learn from others, and that you had more of a human-centric element to it. And I can't grasp the word. I can't remember it, but I
Okay.
love how you positioned it like that in that call.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you listened to that podcast. It's still up, but gotta finish listening to this one too. The disability community is just very special to me. I have a disability, and some of my greatest friends have disabilities as well. And the disability community is always looking to see if they are welcome in a community, if they are safe, if they are shown in their materials and their videos. And if all those boxes are checked mentally, then you kind of have my business. So, yeah.
Understood. Yeah. No, this is great. Thank you so much. There's so much here. And I'm thinking in terms of our audience, they might be thinking, how do you get started, right? I know it's sometimes hard to just, for lack of better, like easier way to say this, like just throw an ad with a person of color, or throw an ad out with someone from a minority group or with a disability on an ad, and it just doesn't feel. Is that the right way to get started? Like, what are some of the tips that you would encourage marketers and hire
Yeah.
to really get started when you're talking about DEI and focus groups?
Yeah. No, I think, one hot talking point within diversity is a lot of times marketers tend to feel like they're just checking boxes. And, the reality is that's not necessarily the healthiest or most proactive way to do it. I think with the disability community in particular, a lot of people just don't know where to start, how to start, or when to start addressing the disability community or integrating them into what they're doing already. And so I think the best way is just to evaluate, your current relationship with the disability community. Maybe hang out with some of your student groups on campus focused on disability. Ask them questions about what they're doing. Just get to know them and what they experience on your campus. And you could also tap into various influencers online, locally, or nationally. There are all sorts of people out there. There are all sorts of books. And so, that's something I do every day is I admit there's a lot I don't know, even with disability. And it's sometimes hard to understand perspectives and experiences I've never been through. And so I sign up for classes and webinars, and I tap into all these groups so that I try to be a best service to them. And when you start to understand and build a relationship with and make your presence known in the disability community that you serve in your area, then you'll think of all sorts of story ideas for videos, photos, articles, whatever, and you can just start to put the puzzle pieces together, not necessarily in a have-to manner. You don't have to do it, but it's an idea of, wow, this is really amazing. And if we do this, man, we're really going to show that anybody with a disability can achieve anything right here on our campus.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, what if I'm hearing is really starting from a place of understanding, empathy, educating yourself is a great way to get started before you run your head, right? Is to connect with the community.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, of course. Just, connect with the community, get to know them, learn who they are as human beings, not necessarily focus on their wheelchair, their service dog, their walking stick, whatever. Just get to know their hearts and their minds, their goals, dreams, aspirations. That's one thing that really helped me in college, and so it's one thing that we continue to do with Team Trust. Is just focus on the entire human being, and that's very special to us.
Love that. I know you mentioned Team Trust. Can you go? I know we haven't really mentioned it, but I'd love for you to describe a little bit more about what you do at Team Trust as well.
Yeah. So we do all sorts of things with Team Trust. So I run Team Trust, and we primarily produce videos and films for nonprofits, government entities, and universities that authentically represent the disability community. And by authentically representing the disability community, we mean, telling their stories not from my perspective, but from how they actually experience their stories. A lot of times I think storytellers, tend to force their own opinion, their own stereotypes and judgments, stories, but with us, it's like, you tell us your story. We love to hear it. It's welcome, and we want to make sure that it's documented. Not very important, but also that you feel seen by us, hopefully, and heard by us, and also our audience. And that's really been valuable for our clients. And so, yeah, that's what we do. It's a gift every day. It's a lot of work, Shiro, but I wouldn't change a thing.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I personally watched that video. I know we talked about it already, but with the disabled, mostly blind skiers, and I loved how the interviews were really focused on the skier themselves and also the coaches, because I thought that was interesting. I think one of the coaches...
Yeah, we did a video for the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee a couple of years ago. We were filming visually impaired skiers and their guides. And so they go down ski slopes at 60, 70 miles per hour. They can't touch.
It's crazy.
The guides are ahead of the skiers by about 6 feet, communicating via Bluetooth headset. Turn left, turn right. And so we spoke with the guides and the skiers about the sense of trust, very relevant to the name of Team Trust, and how powerful trust is in building a relationship and chasing our goals.
Yeah, I couldn't even find a better definition of trust when you might hit a tree at 60 miles an hour if you're not trusting your coach or the skier, the athlete in this case.
Yeah,
and so I thought that was super impressive.
Yeah, no, it's impressive to see those skiers I'm very grateful they let us into their worlds and their events. I will say I do not have any intentions of going skiing at 60, 70 miles per hour right now. I have brittle bones, and so if I did go down a ski slope at that fast, there's a possibility I might end up in 1,000 different pieces at the bottom. So I will just stay at the bottom and watch.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah, I understand. And I know that skiing isn't your favorite sport. I know you really are fond of basketball, right?
Yeah, skiing is kind of my favorite winter sport, but
Oh, there we go.
basketball has been top of mind for me since day one.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a question for you actually that I didn't
Okay.
ask. So
I
I know
might
you,
have an answer for you, Shiro.
I know you, Shaq is like one of your idols, right? You looked up to him.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
know that he is now a DJ as well?
Shaq has done quite a few things. I kind of lose track. He's
Gotcha.
selling all sorts of products and services. He's created some songs. He's been in movies. Have
Right.
you ever seen Kazam?
I have not. No.
Okay, you're missing out. So
Yeah.
Shaq is a genie in the movie. I don't think it's a very popular movie, but I saw it just to watch it. No,
Amazing.
Shaq has always been my guy.
That's amazing. Yeah, I was just curious to see maybe you're listening to him on Spotify or streaming his music.
Nah, I need to do that. I'm missing out now.
Yeah. No, that's great. I was just pure out of curiosity. I listen to a lot of music, so that's great. Well, Ryan, it was super awesome to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for all your insight and knowledge share. I was wondering where our listeners could connect with you or Team Trust to learn more about, what you do or how to follow you as a personal brand as well.
Yeah, so if you're interested in learning more about Team Trust, you can go to our website, teamtrustproductions.com. There you will find examples of our work with colleges, the skiing video that we talked about, and you'll find my contact information, of course. You can always hit me up on social media, of course. I'd like to think I'm fairly active. I'm on Twitter at 32Rhino. That is Shaq's number and my nickname. Fun fact. And so
That's
I'm
great.
also on LinkedIn and all these other platforms. But we love working with universities and higher education, and so it's a gift when we get to work with more.
Amazing. Awesome. And thanks for all our listeners tuning in today, whether it's the video or the podcast audio. Thanks so much. Please join us on the next one. And of course, if you are looking for an interactive map, virtual tour, or events calendar solution, please reach out to Concept 3D. Thank you. Thanks, Ryan.
Hey, thank you.